Do you believe in ghosts?
Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about my sleep paralysis experience. And the reason why I want to talk about sleep paralysis is because some people believe it to be a paranormal phenomenon. So let's get to it. Um, well, I kind of feel like I had become a pro at sleep paralysis for one, because I had it more times than I can count. And when I first when I was thinking back to like the first time that I had it, it turns out that wasn't the first time. I ended up one day logging back into my live journal, which is an old online diary, and I was reading through some of my journal entries, and I saw one, and I was like, oh my god, like I had experienced sleep paralysis so much earlier in life than I thought I did, which was back in high school. Was it high school? It was like right after high school. Um, so I described it as I woke up. Well, like I thought I woke up, because you can't, like, during sleep paralysis, I can't really tell if I'm awake or if I'm asleep. And so like I woke up, I looked around my room, and everything was just like, it had like a red filter, like, and I couldn't move. I had an overwhelming sense of fear, and then before I knew it, like it was over, and like I was really freaked out. I didn't know what had just happened to me. When I had first encountered sleep paralysis, I went and I was really freaked out. So I tried to like look up what it was online, but at the time, like we didn't have, there was no Google, honestly. Like I think what we had was Ask Jeeves. So I went to like SJ or AJ. I went to AJ.com and I typed in like what I had experienced, like woke up, couldn't move, and whatever. And I was trying to see if anyone, like if there was anything online about this, because it was really weird, and there was nothing. There's nothing online about it. I was just like, okay, well, I guess I don't know. I'm a weirdo, and I'm the only one who knows what happened. I would try to describe it to other people. They didn't know what the heck I was talking about. They had never experienced it before, and I was just like, okay, well, okay, whatever, that's weird. And then, it kept happening. Um, I ended up, like, I got really scared of it. I got to a point where I was scared to fall asleep, because I was like, I don't know if it's gonna happen, and it was just such a scary feeling. Like I can't even describe. Like I could tell you, it scared the shit out of me, but you still wouldn't understand like how truly scary it is to be in sleep paralysis. It really feels like something just the most evil you could ever, like, God, I don't know. But so I decided at one point that I was not going to let it scare me anymore, that I was going to figure out what was causing it. And I realized looking back that a lot of times when I would get it was like, okay, when I was like in high school, I was kind of depressed or whatever. And during like the summers and when we didn't have school, we didn't have anything to do, or during our breaks, we had weird school, but during our breaks, and I didn't have anything to do, I would just try to sleep the days away. I would just try to sleep all the time, just like pass the time. And so even when I was not tired, I would try and sleep. I would just lay in bed until I fell asleep. And I realized that kind of like doing that to my body, like making it sleep when I wasn't tired exactly, would bring about sleep paralysis. And also lying on my back, falling asleep with sunlight, with the windows open and sunlight on my face, that also triggered it. So there was a couple things that I realized could trigger it. So then what I began to do was try and trigger it. And I was able to do that. I was able to induce sleep paralysis and just conquer that fear. And then it got to a point where it was just a nuisance. Like, it was just annoying to get stuck in sleep paralysis. I had parts, like times where I would just be stuck, and the fear was still there a little bit, but it wasn't as overwhelming as it was in the beginning, because like I knew what was going on. It was just frustration. Like, I can't move. Like, this is so annoying. Like, I hate when this happens. And you just try so hard to fight it, and eventually you break out of it. But then I remember there were times where I could even feel it coming on. Like, I was laying there, and I just knew I was slipping into paralysis. Like, I knew I was in that caught in that in-between stage, sleep and being awake, and I was about to, and so I'd move really quick, and I'd switch positions, and then all of a sudden I'd start feeling it again. I remember it was just the most annoying thing, dealing with that. So my scariest, most memorable episode with sleep paralysis is the time that I hallucinated on it and saw a demon. I say on it as if it was a drug, but I hallucinated. I hallucinated while I was in sleep paralysis, and it was the scariest thing ever. And this was after the fact that I had conquered it, so to speak, and knew what triggered it and all that stuff. Okay, so what happened was I was at my boyfriend at the time's house. He had gone to work. I stayed behind and was taking a nap. And then I'm napping, and I'm experiencing sleep paralysis, and it's like really annoying, and I'm trying to break out of it. And so like I feel like I try so hard. I'm like, move, and then like I'll move like that, and then I'll get stuck again. And then I'd like move like that, and then I'd get stuck again, and I'd be like, oh, and I'd be like so annoyed. And then like I heard someone walking in and walking towards the bed and standing next to the bed. And so like I looked over, and this is so weird because the whole time it's like I'm seeing things and I'm seeing the room as it is, but I can't tell if my eyes are even open. So anyways, so someone's standing next to the bed, and it's my boyfriend. And so I look at him, and I'm like in my head, because it's so weird because like I'm talking, but I'm not physically talking, but I'm like talking like in my head, and I'm like, Patrick, like what are you doing? And like it's just staring at me. It's like it's my boyfriend, like just staring at me, like just staring at me over the bed. And then I'm like looking at it, and I'm stuck. And then I start being like, you're not Patrick. Like that was my boyfriend's name at the time, Patrick. And I was like, you're not Patrick. I was like, get away from me. Get the hell away from me. Get the fuck away. Like I was like cussing, and I was like so mad. I was just like yelling at it. And it looked like his face started like digitizing, like a bad reception, like over his face. And between the white noises of that like interruption, you could see like pieces of like a demon's face under it. And it was so freaking scary. I was like, get the hell away from me. Like I got all like brave and was like trying to fight it and stuff. And so then next thing I know, I break out of the paralysis. And right earlier I had been moving, and I thought that I legit had moved, whether like it be in my sleep or whatever. Like I thought I legit was in a different position than when I started. When I broke out of it, I noticed right away I was right back to like that, and I was sleeping on my back, and the sun was out, so that's another thing. But when I broke out of it, I noticed I was instantly back to like where I had started, and I was like, what the hell? And I like looked around, and everything was like as it was when I saw, because I noticed specifically that my lip gloss was up on the desk next to the bed, and it was like still there, everything was still there. And it happened so fast that I realized, I was like, and I looked around and I screamed. I was so scared. I screamed, and I grabbed my phone, and I ran out of the house, and I called my boyfriend right away, and I was like, did you just stop by the house for lunch or something? Did you just walk in? Like, did you open the door or anything like that? He was like, no, I've been at work this whole time. I was like, oh my God. I was just like freaking out. And I was like, I swear, like I could have swore you just came home or something. Like I just saw like a demon or something. Like I don't even know. I'm like, I'm freaking out. I hate your house. It freaks me out. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be alone. And I managed to get the courage to run back in and grab my keys, and I think I just went to like Walmart or something until we got home because I was so freaked out. Like, it's so hard to describe to someone else because it's like, and this was at a time before I ever had a drop of alcohol. I've never had any drugs or anything like that. Like, I was completely like, that's my genuine brain. Like, no drugs, no shroom after effect years later or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's weird. It gave me a whole new understanding to people when they have hallucinations, how legit that is for them. Like, that was real for me. You cannot tell me that, like, that wasn't real. Like, it happened for me. It was right there. It was right in front of my face. The thing about it is that now, as time has gone by and I've learned more about sleep paralysis and what it is and everything, like, for a while, that was legitimate, like, real for me. Like, and I thought I just saw a demon, and it messed with my head a little bit. And, but then, like, knowing what sleep paralysis is now and the fact that so many other people go through it too, and just thinking about the logic behind it, about how it is like an actual like medical thing, like you're stuck between being awake and being asleep. So it kind of does make sense that you might like see a hallucination and it's your dream world really being in your reality world. You know what I mean? Like, because your mind is caught in between both of those things. So for me, that's what took away the fear of it and the belief of it being real, and why I'm still a skeptic, because I do realize that although I wasn't on drugs or anything, my mind was in an altered state. It was caught in between sleeping and being awake. So, but it was crazy. Like, you can't tell someone that's not real when they're hallucinating. Like, I mean, I suppose you can, but it's hard to explain, but it was a new understanding for me. And I thought what described it really well is I gotta find out what it was called. I saw a documentary on Netflix. I think it was called Sleep Paralysis, like something very similar to that. And let me see. It was called The Nightmare. So there's a documentary on Netflix called The Nightmare, and it explains sleep paralysis, or it talks about sleep paralysis. And there was a guy on there. There was two things that really stood out to me in that documentary. One was one of the guys saying something about like an alien thing or something like that. I can't really remember. I have to rewatch it. But he described how his face was like getting distorted, like with the white noise type thing. And I had never seen a more accurate depiction of what I had experienced that time that I hallucinated, of the face getting distorted like that. And so that was one thing that stood out to me. I was like, wow, someone else saw like a distorted type face. Like, I mean, his whole experience was completely different. It was something with, like, with aliens or something, I think. But that part of it was the significance for me. The next thing that stood out was one of the guys saying, you know, that it was, he specifically said something along the lines of, how do you go back to living a normal life after that? And I could totally relate to him, because when I was going through this experience and not knowing what it was, and, you know, for that time really believing that I had seen a demon, like, it was hard for me. I was like really depressed, and it messed with my head, and I would sit there like at work or something and my mind would wander, and I'm like, how am I supposed to be normal right now? How am I supposed to act like this didn't happen, or like these things don't exist, or like that there's not something more? How am I supposed to just do this 9 to 5 and like not explore what else is out there or what's going on? Like, I mean, I've experienced like a lot of just mental and emotional stress from that, I guess you could say. So I totally understood what that guy was feeling, what he was going through. Now, he said that I think like it didn't stop for him. he still experiences sleep paralysis. I know another lady in the documentary said she feels that when she focuses, or like when she allows negative things in her life, like such as, you know, playing with a Ouija board or watching scary movies, things like that, that it encourages or invites that type of evil of the sleep paralysis and the demons and stuff like that to happen. And she said, like, when she became a Christian, she like was believing in God and all that stuff, that like the paralysis stopped for her. For me, I don't know why it stopped. It just did. I can't remember the last time I had sleep paralysis. It went on for years for me, and I can't remember the last time I've had it now. But the guy, he said he's always been very depressed and stuff like that, and he's always had sleep paralysis, and he thinks he'll always battle with it, and it always scares him and stuff like that. And like, for me, I feel like he needs to just face that fear like I did and just conquer it and just, you know, have it become a nuisance rather than an actual nightmare that it is. But I do think that when you focus on something in life, it's not that, I don't think that it invites it in more or makes you experience it more or something like that. I think it's just that what you focus on and what you surround yourself with, I think you notice that more. I think everything is always there. It's always been there. It's what you focus on that is going to be more like happening in your life. Like if you have a crush on a guy named Brian or Stephanie, like suddenly you're going to see Brian's and Stephanie's everywhere. You know what I mean? Like if you buy a car and it's a red Honda Civic, all of a sudden you see a bunch of red Honda Civics everywhere. It's like what you have or whatever is what you focus on, what you notice more. Does that make sense? I feel like I never make sense. Anyways, I think that's about it for my sleep paralysis. Haven't had it again in years. Not scared of it anymore. Oh, there was one time where I kind of was having sleep paralysis, but it was definitely more of a dream. And I was in my room, and this like cloud, it was like a black cloud, was at the foot of my bed. And I sensed that it was evil because whatever. And I started punching it in my dream. I punched it away. And there was that. In my dream, in my sleep paralysis dream. I don't know, I can't tell. Okay, so let me know if you have ever had sleep paralysis. Let me know about your experience. Let me know if you know if your eyes were open or not. I did forget about an experience. Okay, so there was another one where I was at that same boyfriend at the time. So I was at his sister's house or something for Christmas, and I fell asleep on the couch. Not intentionally. I don't know how I fell asleep. The lights were on again. I was on like my side though, and I was experiencing sleep paralysis, and it was just the annoying kind, and I was trying to break out of it. And so when I finally broke out of it, I was like, ugh. And then like my boyfriend's like laughing at me, him and his mom, and they're like, oh, you kept like making these noises, and you said my name, and you were twitching. And I'm like, yeah, you should have woke me up, because I had told him about it before, and I was like, if I'm ever twitching, wake me up. Apparently he forgot, because I was in sleep paralysis, and I'm sitting there like Patrick, like, wake me up. And they just thought it was funny, and they didn't realize that I was struggling and super frustrated and stuck in sleep paralysis. So I guess that told me that sometimes my eyes probably like are actually open, and I do twitch and like move and stuff. So let me know if you've had sleep paralysis, if your eyes are open, if you know if you were moving, or anything like weird. Like for me with the red filter during my first experience, I've never heard of anyone else having that. I know some people hear noises or like a high-pitched beam. I never heard any noises or anything like that. So it's interesting that a lot of people can have this, and it's generally the same experience, but there's so many other variables that can happen with it. So yeah, that's my experience with sleep paralysis. Some people think it's paranormal. Some people think it's not. I lean on the side that it's not, just because it makes more sense to me. But it is pretty weird. Can't deny that. All right, well, I think that's it. So, till next time. So, after filming, I also remembered an experience during sleep paralysis that I forgot to mention. And that's one time that I was laying down, and I was just like laying down in my bed. And it was like, it felt like I came up like halfway, like out of my body. This was like an out of body experience. Like my body was still laying down. And like I came out like halfway, and I looked around, and the next thing you know, I was like awake. Like, not awake, but like snapped out of it type of thing. And like it was really weird. So I've had hallucinations, I've had out of body experiences during sleep paralysis, seeing demons, overwhelming sense of fear. So yeah, that's just one more thing that I forgot to mention. So I want to throw that in there.